The Burden of Kings: Why Blaming Others is Destroying Your Life. Introduction: The Sovereign and the Subject. The narrator: The tone must be heavy, grounded, and slow. Speak with the weight of someone delivering an ancient, uncomfortable truth. Let the silence between sentences feel like a challenge to the listener. You are setting the stage for a total identity shift. Imagine two men standing on the deck of a sinking ship in the middle of a violent Atlantic storm. The waves are black mountains, the wind is a screaming ghost, and the iron hull is groaning under the weight of imminent destruction. The first man is screaming at the sky. He is cursing the navigator for hitting the iceberg. He is screaming at the engineers for the structural failure of the steel. He is blaming the gods for the wind and the cold. He is entirely correct in his assessment. It was the navigator's error. It was the engineer's incompetence. He is a victim of circumstances beyond his control. And because he is a victim, he stands paralyzed, arms crossed in righteous indignation, until the freezing water swallows him whole. He dies right, but he dies nonetheless. The second man does not speak. He does not look at the navigator. He does not care whose fault the hole in the hull is. He simply looks at the water, looks at the nearest lifeboat, and begins to move. He takes the axe. He cuts the ropes. He assumes total, absolute responsibility for his survival, despite being in a situation he did not create. He does not ask for permission. He does not seek an apology. He simply acts. One man died with his truth. The other lived with his burden. Welcome to the ultimate divide in the human species. This is not a divide based on wealth, intelligence, or genetics. It is a divide based on the direction of the finger. On one side, you have the subject. The subject lives in a world of fault. Their life is a series of events that happen to them. They are defined by their excuses, their grievances, and their meticulously curated list of people who have wronged them. They are the protagonists of a tragedy they did not write. They are right, but they are powerless. They are the eternal passengers of their own destiny. On the other side, you have the sovereign. The sovereign lives in a world of responsibility. They understand a brutal elite secret that the masses are too afraid to acknowledge. Fault is retrospective, but responsibility is prospective. Fault looks backward to find a culprit to punish. Responsibility looks forward to find a solution to implement. It may not be your fault that you were born into poverty. It may not be your fault that your partner betrayed you. It may not be your fault that the economy collapsed or that your boss is a sociopath. But the moment you allow those facts to become an excuse for your current state, you have handed the keys to your life to your enemies. You have traded your power for the cheap, addictive comfort of pity. This audiobook is an intervention. We are not here to comfort you. We are here to perform a psychological autopsy on the most common and most deadly habit in modern society, the habit of blame. In this extensive masterclass, we are going to dismantle the blame mechanism in your brain. We will explore the neurobiology of why your ego loves to feel like a victim. We will dive into the responsibility paradox, why taking the blame for things you didn't do is actually the fastest way to gain power over a room. You will learn the sovereign's audit, a tool used by high-level executives and military commanders to eliminate excuses from their vocabulary. you will discover the identity shift required to move from being a passenger in your life to being the architect of your destiny. If you want to feel validated in your suffering, if you want a voice to tell you that the world is unfair and that you are doing your best, turn this audio off. Go back to the noise. But if you are ready to pick up the heavy golden crown of the sovereign, if you are ready to accept that everything in your life, your bank account, your fitness, your relationships, and your mental state is your responsibility, regardless of who is at fault, then listen closely. It is time to stop blaming. It is time to start ruling. Chapter 2: The Parasite of Pity. The dark incentive of victimhood. We must now address one of the most uncomfortable truths in human psychology: the secondary gain of suffering. Why do so many people refuse to let go of their grievances? Why do they collector their traumas like trophies? It is because victimhood is a form of social currency. It is a parasite of pity that feeds on the attention of others. In our modern era, being a victim grants you immediate moral authority. It allows you to make demands of others without having to offer anything in return. It provides you with a pass for your own mediocrity. If you can prove you are a victim, you no longer have to compete. You no longer have to be excellent. You simply have to be wronged. The weaponization of weakness. The subject uses their suffering to control the room. They use their trauma as a shield to deflect any expectation of performance. How can you expect me to work hard when I had such a difficult childhood? How can you expect me to be faithful when I was betrayed in the past? This is the ultimate Machiavellian move of the weak. They weaponize their own inadequacy to guilt-trip the strong into serving them. But the cost of this move is total. To keep the power of the victim, you must remain broken. You cannot heal, because if you heal, you lose your leverage. You become a prisoner of your own excuse. You have to stay small to stay right. The sovereign disdains for pity. To be pitied is to be seen as incapable of handling your own life. It is to be seen as a child in a man's body. The elite individual does not want your sympathy. They want your respect. And respect is only earned through the demonstration of agency. The sovereign may have suffered horrific trauma. They may have been objectively victimized by criminals, by systems, or by family, but they never incorporate that victimization into their identity. They treat their past like a set of data points, a map of where they have been, not a definition of who they are. The subject wants you to know how hard they had it, so you will lower your standards for them. The sovereign wants you to know what they did about it, so you will raise your standards for yourself. The next time you feel the urge to tell the story of how you were wronged, ask yourself, am I seeking a solution or am I seeking a sedative? Am I trying to move forward, or am I trying to get a discount on my duties? If you want the crown, you must kill the parasite. You must stop trading your potential for pity. Chapter 3: The Responsibility Paradox. Ownership as the ultimate leverage. Most people avoid responsibility because they think it makes them look weak. They think that if they take the hit for a mistake, their status will drop. They believe that being at fault is a sign of incompetence. This is the thinking of a subject. The sovereign understands the responsibility paradox. The person who takes the most responsibility in a room, regardless of fault, eventually holds the most power in that room. Why? because responsibility and control are two sides of the same coin. You cannot have one without the other. The moment you say, "This is not my responsibility," you are simultaneously saying, "I have no power to change this." You are declaring your own helplessness. If you blame your employees for your company's low revenue, you are publicly declaring that your employees are the ones in control of the company's future, not you. You have just demoted yourself in the eyes of everyone watching. You have told the board of directors that you are a figurehead, not a leader. If you blame your genetics for your lack of fitness, you are declaring that your DNA is your master, and you are its slave. You have surrendered your body to a chemical code. Stealing the power. In the world of high-stakes power dynamics, taking responsibility is a predatory move. It is a way to capture the room. When a project fails and everyone in the boardroom is pointing fingers at each other, the room is in a state of chaotic weakness. They are all desperately trying to shed responsibility to save their jobs. They are behaving like terrified children. The master of soft power waits. He lets the noise reach its peak. He lets everyone else look small and reactive. Then he speaks with the alpha whisper. "Stop. This is my responsibility. I oversaw the strategy and I failed to account for the variables that led to this outcome. I will take the full hit for this with the board. Now here is how I am going to fix it." Look at the devastating impact of this move. Status explosion. He instantly becomes the only adult in the room. While everyone else looked like cowards, he looked like a leader. He demonstrated courage, which is the rarest currency in the corporate world. Narrative control. By taking the responsibility, he has seized the right to dictate the solution. He is no longer asking for permission, he is leading the recovery. He who owns the failure owns the future. Indebtedness. He has saved the others from the hit. They now owe him a massive debt of loyalty. By absorbing the blame, he has bought their allegiance. By taking 100% of the responsibility for a failure that was only 10% his, he has acquired 100% of the power in the aftermath. This is how empires are built. The burden of the crown. Kings do not have the luxury of fault. In the 16th century, if a kingdom suffered a famine due to a drought, the people did not blame the rain, they blamed the king. They believed the king's relationship with the divine or his management of the granaries was the cause. The king accepted this burden. He didn't argue with the peasants about meteorology. He didn't explain the science of weather patterns. He knew that to be the king meant you were the one who had to solve the problem, regardless who caused it. If the people are hungry, it is the king's problem, period. If you want the life of a king, you must accept the burden of the king. You must embrace the fact that everything in your orbit is your responsibility. The weather, the economy, the mistakes of your subordinates, the infidelity of your partner, all of it. You don't take responsibility because it's fair. You take responsibility because it's the only way to remain the master of the deck. Sovereignty is the refusal to be a victim of anything. Chapter 4. Fault versus responsibility, the great distinction. One of the greatest barriers to radical responsibility is the inability to distinguish between fault and responsibility. Most people think these two words mean the same thing. They think that if they accept responsibility for a situation, they are admitting it was their fault. Their ego screams, "I won't say I'm responsible because I didn't do anything wrong." This confusion is the eternal misery. Imagine you are walking down the street and someone crashes their car into yours while you are legally parked. Your ego screams, "It's not my fault. I shouldn't have to deal with this. They should fix it." You are 100% correct. It is not your fault. The other driver is the cause of the accident. But here is the sovereign truth. It is still your responsibility. It is your responsibility to call the insurance company. It is your responsibility to find a way to work the next day. It is your responsibility to manage your anger so you don't say something you regret to the other driver. The other driver may be at fault, but they are not going to live your life for you. They are not going to fix your internal state. They are not going to ensure your career stays on track while your car is in the shop. The victim's loop. The subject gets stuck in the fault loop. They refuse to take responsibility because they are obsessed with the fact that it wasn't their fault. I'm not going to fix this relationship until she admits what she did was wrong. Result: the relationship stays broken for years. He lives in misery because he is waiting for someone else to grant him permission to be happy. I'm not going to work hard at this company until they recognize my value and apologize for my low salary. Result: he remains mediocre and bitter. He is waiting for the cause to change before he becomes the effect. The subject is a beggar. They are begging for an apology, begging for a sorry, begging for the world to make it right. They have placed their happiness in the hands of the very people who hurt them. This is madness. The sovereign's leap. The sovereign skips the fault conversation entirely. They look at the current reality as it is, unfair, messy, and broken, and they simply ask, "What is my move?" Taking responsibility for something that isn't your fault is the ultimate act of self-love. It is saying, "I value my peace of mind, my time, and my future so much that I am not willing to leave them in the hands of the person who wronged me. I will clean up the mess they made because I am the only one I trust to do it right. I am not waiting for their apology to start my life." This applies to the most profound and painful areas of life. If you were abused as a child, it is 0% your fault. You were an innocent victim of a predator or a broken parent. You did nothing to deserve that pain, but it is 100% your responsibility to heal. If you wait for the person who hurt you to apologize or for the world to make it right, you are remaining tethered to your abuser. You are allowing them to continue to control your nervous system from the past. You are letting them win every single day. Taking responsibility for your healing is the act of cutting the cord. It is the ultimate F you to those who wronged you. It is proving that they were not powerful enough to break you permanently. It is the reclamation of your soul. Chapter 5: Strategic Ownership, Commanding the Narrative. We have covered the internal power of responsibility. Now we must look at how to use it externally to command respect and silence opponents. In any organization, a family, a business, or a social circle, there is a constant shifting struggle for the high ground. Most people try to claim the high ground by being right. They point out the flaws in others to elevate themselves. They play a game of status subtraction. I am big because I made you small. The master of strategic ownership does the opposite. They claim the high ground by being the first to admit they are wrong. They play a game of status addition. I am so big that I can admit I am small. The shield of ownership. When you are attacked or criticized, the expected response is defense. The attacker has thrown a punch and they expect you to put up a wall. When you defend yourself, you look guilty. You look like you are hiding something. You look like a subject. Imagine your boss comes to you and says, "This report is full of errors. What were you thinking?" Amateur, the defense. "Well, Sarah gave me the wrong data and my computer crashed twice on Friday. I was doing my best under the circumstances and the deadline was too tight anyway." Result: the boss is now even more annoyed. You look weak, dishonest, and unmanageable. You have blamed Sarah, your computer, and the boss himself for the deadline. You are a liability. Master: strategic ownership. You look the boss in the eye. You do not flinch. You do not offer a single excuse. You're right, this report is not up to my standard. I allowed Sarah's data errors to pass through my filter without double-checking, and I failed to manage the timeline effectively despite the computer issues. This is entirely on me. I will have a corrected, flawless version on your desk by 8 a.m. tomorrow, and I've already implemented a new double-check protocol to ensure this never happens again. Notice what just happened. You didn't just take the punch, you swallowed it. By taking 100% ownership, you have rendered the boss's anger obsolete. There is nowhere for his aggression to go. You have said everything he was going to say, and you said it better. But more importantly, look at what you did to Sarah. You took the hit for her. You didn't blame her. Now Sarah is intensely loyal to you. She knows you protected her. You have demonstrated absolute competence, extreme honesty, and high-level leadership in one paragraph. You have turned a failure into a massive status victory. You have proven that you are the most reliable person in the building. The ownership audit in leadership. If you are a leader and your team is underperforming, the problem is always you. My team is lazy. No, you have failed to provide an environment that incentivizes hard work, or you have failed to fire the lazy members. My team doesn't listen. No, you have failed to communicate in a way that commands attention, or you have failed to establish clear consequences for non-compliance. When you blame your team hates you. They feel your lack of loyalty. They will continue to underperform to spite you. When you tell your team, I have failed to lead you effectively and that is why our numbers are down, here is how I am going to change my approach to help you succeed, the energy in the room shifts instantly. They stop defending themselves and start looking at how they can help you. By taking the burden, you have invited them to join you in the solution. Chapter 6: The Sovereign's Boundary: Responsibility for Your Environment. A king is responsible not only for his own actions, but for everything that happens within the borders of his kingdom. This includes the people he allows in his court. One of the most common excuses of the subject is, I'm unhappy because the people around me are toxic. The subject blames their friends, their family, or their partner for their own emotional state. They act as if they are a prisoner in their own life. The sovereign recognizes a harder truth. You are responsible for who has access to you. If there is rot in your kingdom, it is because you allowed it to enter. If you are surrounded by people who drain your energy, who mock your ambition, or who betray your trust, that is your responsibility. You are the one who opened the gates. You are the one who refuses to fire the traitors. Cost of access. Every person in your life is a line item in your budget of energy. If you are failing to reach your goals because you are distracted by the drama of your friends, you are responsible for that distraction. You have prioritized the comfort of old friendships over the duty of your own potential. The sovereign practices radical pruning. They understand that their time and attention are the most valuable resources in the kingdom. They do not allow parasites to linger. If someone consistently brings negativity into your orbit, you have 3 sovereign moves. Lead them, set clear expectations for their behavior. Limit them, drastically reduce the time and information you give them. Leave them, excise them from the kingdom entirely. If you choose to do none of the above, you have no right to complain. You are choosing to be miserable. You are responsible for the quality of your circle. Responsibility for the in-group. This applies to your family as well. You cannot choose your biological family, but you can choose the level of influence they have over your nervous system. If you allow a toxic parent to ruin your weekend with a single phone call, you are the one who failed to set a boundary. You are responsible for your own reactivity. You are responsible for the fact that you haven't yet done the work to become emotionally independent. The sovereign's boundary is absolute. You are the guard at the gate of your own mind. Nothing enters without your permission, and if something toxic is already inside, you are the only one who can throw it out. Chapter 7. The Iron Law of Choice. Freedom is a burden. At the heart of the burden of kings is a terrifying realization that most people spend their entire lives trying to ignore. You are always choosing. Most people think they are only responsible for the actions they take. They think that if they do nothing, they aren't responsible for the outcome. They believe that doing nothing is a neutral state. This is the greatest lie of the subject. In the world of reality, there is no such thing as a neutral state. Inactivity is an action. Silence is a statement. In every moment of your existence, you are making a choice. Staying in a job you hate is a choice. You are choosing the security of the paycheck over the risk of the unknown. Remaining in a toxic relationship is a choice. You are choosing the fear of being alone over the self-respect of walking away. Allowing yourself to be distracted by your phone is a choice. You are choosing immediate sensory pleasure over long-term mission. Refusing to speak up when you are disrespected is a choice. You're choosing the absence of conflict over the presence of honor. You are making these choices every single day, and because you are choosing them, you are responsible for the consequences. The prison of I can't. The word can't is the favorite word of the slave. I can't leave this job, I have bills to pay. I can't start working out, I'm too tired. I can't stop checking my ex's Instagram, I'm still hurt. When you say I can't, you are attempting to trick your own brain. You are trying to pretend that there is an external force physically stopping you. You are trying to make yourself feel like a victim so you don't have to feel the guilt of your own cowardice. The sovereign replaces I can't with I am choosing not to. I am choosing to stay in this job because I currently value the security of the paycheck more than the risk of starting a business. I accept the boredom as the price of that security. I am choosing to eat this junk food because I currently value immediate sensory pleasure more than my long-term health. I accept the fat as the price of this taste. Look at the difference. The physical result is the same, but the internal power dynamic is flipped. By saying, I am choosing, you have acknowledged your own agency. You have admitted that you are the one at the steering wheel. This is the burden of freedom. Freedom is not the ability to do whatever you want without consequences. Freedom is the recognition that you are the cause of your consequences. You are the architect of your own prison or your own palace. The cost of sovereignty. Being a sovereign is exhausting. It means you never get to have a bad day where it's someone else's fault. It means you never get to wallow in pity. It means you have to look in the mirror every night and realize that you are the reason your life looks the way it does. This is why most people prefer to be subjects. It is easier to be a victim. It is more comfortable to be right and miserable than wrong and powerful. It is easier to point at the navigator on the sinking ship than to pick up the heavy axe and start cutting the ropes. But if you are listening to this, you are not most people. You are a predator of potential. You are someone who craves the weight of the crown. You understand that the burden of responsibility is actually the source of your gravity. It is what makes you a heavy, unmovable object in a world of leaves blown by the wind. Chapter 8. The Sovereign's Protocol. Daily Habits of Absolute Ownership. To maintain the state of radical responsibility, you must build a daily protocol. Sovereignty is not a one-time decision, it is a metabolic process. You must train your brain to reject excuses as if they were physical pathogens. 1. The MAR mirror audit. Every morning, before you check your phone, before you let the world's noise into your kingdom, look yourself in the mirror. Look directly into your own eyes. Say out loud, "Everything that happens today is my responsibility. I am the cause. I am the leader. I am the architect. I will accept no excuses from myself. If the day is a victory, I earned it. If the day is a failure, I allowed it." This is not a positive affirmation. It is a declaration of war against your own weakness. It sets the internal frame for the day. You are priming your prefrontal cortex to remain in control when the inevitable stressors of the day arrive. 2. The 0% external audit. At the end of every day, perform a reverse review. Look at the 3 most frustrating or negative things that happened during the day. For each event, perform the 0% external audit. Force yourself to find how you were 100% responsible for the outcome, even if it seems impossible. Example, you got a parking ticket. Subject, the city is greedy and the sign was hidden. Sovereign, I failed to perform a thorough sweep of the area for signage. I chose to take the risk of parking in an unfamiliar zone. This is my cost for poor situational awareness. I will pay it and learn. Example, your child threw a tantrum. Subject, the kid is just being difficult today. Sovereign, I failed to regulate my child's environment and schedule effectively. I allowed them to become overstimulated or hungry. I am responsible for their emotional regulation until they are capable of their own. I will adjust the schedule tomorrow. 3. Linguistic surgery. You must ruthlessly excise the language of the subject from your speech. Eradicate these phrases. It's not fair. He made me feel. I didn't have a choice. I'll try. Replace with I will or I am choosing not to. If only external event hadn't happened. Replace them with I will handle this. I allowed myself to feel. My move is. I failed to account for. 4. The 7-day responsibility siege. Once a quarter, you must enter a 7-day siege. For 1 week, you are forbidden from complaining about anything, not the weather, not the traffic, not your spouse, not your health. If a problem arises, you are only allowed to speak in terms of solutions and ownership. Notice the intense internal friction this creates. Feel the amygdala screaming for an excuse. Sit with that tension. By refusing to release the pressure through blame, you are forcing your brain to grow. You are training yourself to see every obstacle as a puzzle to be solved, rather than a grievance to be aired. Conclusion: the crown of the self. You have reached the end of the excuses and the beginning of the empire. We began this journey by looking at the sinking ship. We revealed that blame is a sedative, a dopamine-driven trap engineered by your own ego to keep you weak, sick, and paralyzed. You now understand the neurobiology of the excuse. You know that every time you point a finger, you are atrophying your own brain. You have been warned against the victim identity, the modern social currency of the weak. You understand that proving your suffering only grants you the right to remain small. You know the parasite of pity, and you have chosen to kill it. You have learned the responsibility paradox. You know that taking the hit is a power move, and that the person who owns the failure eventually owns the room. You know the vital distinction between fault and responsibility. You know that even if the world broke it, it is your job to fix it, because you are the only one who cares enough about your life to do it right. You possess the strategic tools of ownership. You know how to command the narrative by being the first to admit a flaw. You know how to use the me pivot to silence aggression. You have defined the sovereign boundary. You know that you are responsible for your environment and for the people you allow to sit at your table. And you understand the iron law of choice. You know that I can't is a lie. You know that every moment of your life is a voluntary selection. There is an ancient, heavy weight to the truth. Taking radical responsibility is not empowering in the way the world usually describes it. It doesn't feel like a warm hug. It feels like a cold, heavy iron weight placed on your shoulders. It is the burden of kings. But here is the secret that the sovereigns know. That weight is what anchors you to the earth. That weight is what gives you gravity. That weight is what allows you to stand still while the rest of the world is swept away by the winds of chaos. Without that weight, you are a leaf. You are a victim. You are a consequence. With that weight, you are an anchor. You are a cause. You are the king. When you stop blaming others, you stop being a consequence. You become a cause. You become the eye of the storm. You become the one who decides. The next time something goes wrong, the next time you feel the urge to complain, to justify, or to explain away your failure, freeze. Anchor your feet. Look at the mess. Smile at the weight. Pick up the crown, put it on your head, and say the 4 most powerful words in the human language. This is my responsibility. And then go and build your world. Thank you for picking up the burden with quick audiobooks. If this masterclass has shattered your excuses and given you the keys to your own kingdom, ensure you subscribe, like, and return for more uncompromising, relentless deep dives into psychology, power, and the pursuit of sovereignty. Until next time, stay responsible, stay sovereign, and stay dangerous.